Hello, amazing human being. I'm Jeff, joined here with Rūta. Rūta. Hey, Rūta, how are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm wonderful. I'm excited to be connecting with you. Yesterday, we were out to lunch and we were talking about things that are coming up in our lives, things that we are experiencing and very curious about. So, as we are teachers, coaches, and guides, we're also living our lives being very curious about what is the most optimal way or the most congruent and aligned way to live life. And we were talking about decision making and the impact that a decision has. And we're going to go deep into this conversation around the roots of what a decision is and the impact that has in our life, as well as the conviction around a decision as well. So excited to be joining you in this conversation, and hopefully our insights inspire you to make big, bold decisions in your life and to be in conviction about it. So here we are.
Here we are.
Well, we decided to do this podcast, and here we are. So that's a great example. It's like decision, action. I used to have this T-shirt before I was into like more spiritual wellness. I was really into boot camp and fitness. And one of the first awesome communities I was a part of in that vibration. That's another thing we can talk about is vibration and attracting your tribe, perhaps another time. But anyway, this really awesome community, there was a T-shirt my friend Todd made, and he was the leader of the boot camps. And it said, decide, commit, succeed, in that order. Decide, commit, succeed. And that always resonated with me. In fact, that really resonated with a lot of people who saw the shirt too, because it's very pure and very simple. And my biggest curiosity in life is what gets in the way of that process, because it's so straightforward. That's what we were talking, like that's the subtleness and the details of life.
Brilliant way to start the conversation. Decide, commit, succeed. And for me, that immediately sparks an idea, something that we touched on yesterday during our lunch, and that is conviction, like you mentioned earlier, just now. For me, decision or deliberate decision already means that I am already committed. And that also brings the conviction with it. So when you are convinced, when you are making that deliberate decision, I am being this person, I am changing my life, I am making this happen, I am losing weight, I am changing my career, I am leaving that relationship. There's actually the commitment is not even a separate step. It comes with it already.
Yes,
so
absolutely.
when you're so convinced, when you're making that decision from the depth of your heart, there's no question about it anymore. There's no doubt, there's no insecurity, there's some fear, but you're so convinced that you're overcoming that fear no matter what. So basically, it kind of collapses the timeline. And then once you decide, because you're already committed, then there's no other way then to succeed.
Exactly. I love that. And all of our energy gets to go towards that thing, because in the process in the decision-making process, there's a lot of energy that gets spread in many different directions. And this is what's very interesting to me, is decision at an intellectual level is very different than decision both in mind and heart. So I'd say we're talking about making a heart level decision. I'm going to put my whole heart into this decision, and therefore all of my energy and my emotional energy gets directed towards what it is I've put my mind to. So it's aligning head and heart and creating this really powerful, potent decision that really attracts everything that we need in order to fulfill that, whatever it is that we need to do. So it's the alignment of, okay, so there's an intellectual decision, there's an idea, and that we know that if I think I want something, or if I'm dabbling in something, how exhausting is it? Because it's essentially in my experience, banging a head up against the wall because I'm only at the intellectual level. And what I've experienced when I can get that depth of decision made, where it gets into every cell of my body, I'm fully, everything is aligned, and here it is. And I want to dive deeper into what is the process to get there, because that's something that would be gold to know and to be able to practice. And I have a sneaky suspicion that that's a skill that we get to cultivate rather than just something that we talk about here in the video and then you get it. So let's talk about it in terms of a skill to cultivate as well. When that decision goes from the intellectual level to the heart, that's what I'm very curious about. What are we doing in that process? So what do you think?
Oh, this is juicy. Oh my God, I love it already. It's already getting juicy. So a few things come in my mind before I jump into this mind and heart. I also wanted to bring something. When you are convinced, you basically burn the ships and there's no plan B anymore. There's no such thing as, I will go back to where I was. You are so convinced you're doing it that it's a no-brainer. You're doing it, end of story. So that is, for example, what I did when I decided to make coaching my life and serve other people and help other people and become the best version of myself, and be basically committing to a lifelong journey of improvement and personal development in order to be somehow a contribution to a better world. And so once you burn the ships, that is basically what it means to be convinced, because it's like, well, duh, of course I'm not going back. Of course I'm not, making any other decisions. You can elaborate, you can, of course, adjust, you can be flexible, you can shift around, you can change a little bit the direction, but that doesn't mean that you're going back where you were before, because you're so convinced that where you were before is not where you want to be. And so you're kind of committed to your future self, to your future vision. And that means that it comes with all its goods and bads, with all its obstacles, and with all the bumps on the road. And basically that means that you are accepting that, well, you know what, no matter what, I'm going to make it happen. I'm going to make it work. Even if I will be defeated once in a while, even if I will fail once in a while, even if it's going to be hard once in a while, even if I might feel lonely, frustrated, angry, I will feel like it's not working. It doesn't matter. I am committed and convinced that I am making it work. So with that, now coming back to what you said, the alignment between the mind and heart, that is exactly that, because you're so convinced it's not just in your heart, in your head, it's actually in your entire nervous system. And that means that you didn't just decide because like, I intellectually want that thing. But if you only intellectually decide, then that means that you will swim against the stream and you will fight the fight, and it will be really hard. It will get, it will become difficult. It is really difficult to do something that you're not quite emotionally engaged with. And that vision is like, well, for example, if you think you want to make a lot of money, for example, and you're like, oh, I want to become a millionaire, but really you don't want to do that specific thing the way you want to make that million, because it's just not exciting to you. It's purposeless. So you need to align what it is that you think you want with what brings you that feeling of alignment, that feeling of purpose and meaning and contribution, and feeling like you're doing something that's good for the planet, for humanity as a whole. And how do you do that? To answer your question, it's like a whole circle. How do you do that? It's, well, nervous system is what I mentioned, right? So how do you get on board with your body? How do you get on board with your heart? How do you get on board with your subconscious mind? Because your mind rationally is like, oh yeah, of course I want $1 million, but really, your body is freaking out because it comes with responsibility, it comes with leadership, it comes with a lot of things that are really out of your comfort zone. So how do you do that is really start becoming emotionally and in your body feeling comfortable with who you are, and that idea of what it is that you want to manifest, of what it is that you are convinced you want to create. So let's say, taking that example of $1 million, that means that you need to feel comfortable in your body, not just in your mind, like, oh, it would be nice to have all this money. No, I am so convinced that I am the leader who is safe and capable of creating that, who trusts and believes in myself and the process to make that happen, who knows that that's what I'm meant to be doing. And really, that $1 million isn't even the goal. The goal is, how am I expressing myself, and how am I helping and other, serving other people? How am I adding value in the world? And so when you kind of become just in your body really aligned and happy with that decision, with that conviction, then everything else starts aligning as well. So then the rational mind just becomes kind of the servant of your subconscious mind, of your nervous system, of your body, of your heart's decisions. And then the rational mind is going to lead you, okay, this is the next best step. This is what you can do now. This is what kind of action you can take. This is kind of the identity and the behavior that you should and could be kind of showing as moving forward towards that vision, towards that manifestation. So, and that, like you said, it is a skill. It's not something necessarily that, oh, I was born poor in this specific example again, like, oh, I'm poor and now that's my identity. No, it's not. It's really a matter of practice. It's a matter of finding ways to really get on board on all levels, your body, mind, your soul, on that, with that manifestation, with that vision, with that goal, with that result that you want to create. Does that make sense?
Totally makes sense. Well, I would love to also clarify in the way that I see it as well. And I know we're on the same page. We're on the same page in the same line. The conversation is around connecting with something that is understood at the level of mind. And the more that we are in a process, being a process of becoming more authentic, more aligned with who we are, and that's really a journey, and that's a path. So that's its own conversation. In fact, we've certainly talked about that. And that's the essence of these conversations, of becoming and working towards authenticity. And authenticity it's an individual process. When we are in that process, the decision-making process becomes more refined because it is more tuned to who we are. And when we know more about our true, authentic likes, dislikes, preferences, proclivities, then we start making decisions that are aligned with that. And here's where it gets interesting is with the nervous system and making certain decisions that brush up against the nervous system. In other words, they create an upregulated stress response. And there's two different ways, at least two different ways that I'm looking at this right now is this stress response an old program, a trauma that is being relived because I'm starting to disrupt that program? I'm starting to, this decision, this goal, or this thing that I'm deciding to put my energy towards and making a decision to act towards, this is a disruption to an old program. And so when you say, well, we will naturally manifest the obstacles, the bumps in the roads, and this is what I'm talking about. It's like, this is when we get triggered into old self, old beliefs, old patterns. And this is all this is all unconscious, and it's going to be there. And the more we really align with ourselves and know ourselves, and we start walking in that direction, making decisions. And we can talk about, this is another nuance that I'm discovering in this conversation, big decisions versus smaller decisions. Like we get a big vision, and that vision is comprised of lots of decisions towards that aim. So there's something really valuable in making this conversation around decision making and the collapse of once we're really decided, we're committed, and there is conviction. So it's this quality of decision that is head and heart. And really, it's a heart decision. The head isn't involved. The heart knows, and the mind is the one that is, the mind is such an incredible thing. It's such a very powerful and sophisticated tool, because the mind is dancing with the universe and seeing opportunity and actualizing the vision. But the heart is the one providing all the energy. We could say like the heart is the gas, and the mind would be like the engine, or even just the steering, apparatus. And the heart is the gas and the engine. It's like everything that needs to get us there is in the heart, but the mind is the one directing the ship. And it's important to recognize that there's like unconscious things that we aren't aware of from the past, and we call this in yoga karma, that will be triggered in order to derail us. And the past has a tendency to repeat itself. And when we get more authentic, we're breaking free from that, and we're becoming free. And this is what I wanted to get to eventually, is that in my experience, when decisions come from the deepest depths, what I really love and what I really value in my personal life is a sense of freedom. It's more important to me than I think most people, many people. Freedom, a sense of freedom, is one of my highest priorities. That seems intellectually contradictory to making a commitment and a decision, right? It seems as if I make that decision, then I'm cutting myself off from other choices and other possibilities, right? So this is what really excites me and really interests me, is that I've had experiences of being fully invested, committed, decided on something, and then I experience the freedom to relax into the knowing that it's already done. And this is what's so essential about it, is recognizing how much energy we waste when the mind is wavering on, am I going to do this? What about something else? What about plan B or idea C, or, other possibilities? Tremendous constraints. And these are like all of these other possibilities are different chains chaining me up, that are keeping me from really feeling relaxed. Again, a nervous system experience, to this knowing that it's done, it's secure, and I feel free. I feel free to go for it. I feel free to fully put myself into that thing, and it's done. And this is what's really special. And this is what I'm so curious about. How can I manufacture more of that in my life, where it's like sorted, done?
I love it. And what you mentioned in the very beginning also regarding authenticity, and that reminded me of what we spoke about yesterday during the lunchtime, that we need to tune into who we are and tune into the present moment in order to hear intuition better, so that you can actually make those authentic decisions, big and small, like you said, the ones that are, okay, what is my bigger vision? What is my bigger goal? And at the same time, what are those micro decisions on a day-to-day, moment-by-moment basis, so that it actually brings me further and closer to my vision, to the big vision. And like you said, this knowingness that it's already done is just such a, oh my God, I love that feeling.
If they could bottle that.
It's just like, you can just kind of melt in it. It's like, I am doing the right thing in this very moment, and I'm so inspired, and I'm so motivated, and I'm doing the thing, and I'm going for it. And it's so empowering. It makes you feel like a badass. It makes you feel unstoppable. It makes you feel like there's absolutely nothing you cannot do, because you're doing something that is aligned with who you really are. You're not pushing against something because you think you have to do it, or because you thought it was something that, you know, was expected of you, but you're doing it because it's who you are. It's in your nature, it's in your essence. And that's why it's also so amazing to know that it's already done, because you feel that it's the right thing for you to do. And saying all that, as you were talking about nervous system and so on, and I was wondering, maybe you could give a little bit more insight about what, from your perspective, nervous system is and how to regulate it, because I think for some of the listeners it might be kind of confusing. What do you actually mean with nervous system, and what does it mean to relax into it, and what does it mean to be on board with your body and stuff like that? As we are speaking with these kind of terms, for some people it might be a little bit unclear. So maybe you want to dive into that a little bit.
Absolutely. In terms of our brain and how we function in this world, so we're, you know, I me, you're you, and the person watching this, you are you, and we are here in a body, and we're functioning in the world, and we have our brain that is interacting with energetically, like with electrical impulses, in order to, well, the first and foremost evolutionarily confirmed thing the brain needs to do is keep us alive. And so that's the oldest brain. That's the oldest part of our brain. And that's the most unconscious aspect of us, is the part of us that keeps us alive. So the things that even evolutionarily before this life, the DNA, the information that comes into creating this in order to keep us alive is stored in us at a cellular memory level. And we have this part of our brain, our nervous system, and we can relate that to how I can experience it from a more conscious perspective in order to stay alive and or thrive. So there's the part of us that's just trying to stay alive and sees everything as a potential threat. And then there's the part of us that is more secure and safe and thriving. So from a neurological, biological standpoint, this is what's happening. And the nervous system is how the brain is sending impulses down to the body. And where is that information coming from? Is it coming from the old brain that wants to keep us alive, or is it coming from the more evolved brain that can be connected with possibility of the future and knowing that there's security, that I'm not worried about a roof over my head or finding sleep or shelter or food or anything like that. So different parts of our brain. And then when you recognize, so that's the very basic explanation of, okay, nervous system. And then when we start talking about nervous system, we break it down into two parts, the parasympathetic nervous system and the sympathetic nervous system. Now, the really, really cool thing about the nervous system is that the more present we become, in other words, let's use a tool in order to become present. And that tool can be focus. I'm going to put my attention on my breath, and I'm going to take some slow, deep breaths, and I'm just going to experience that for a few moments. And automatically, if you do that with me, and I'll even slow down how I speak because that's part of it too, the nervous system, that's your experience of the nervous system as coming into a parasympathetic state. We are wired to be most optimal in a slightly parasympathetic state. And it's important to know that it's a scale. So there will be an example where you may be in danger. You've gone swimming in the ocean and the tide sweeps you up, or the current sweeps you up and pulls you down underwater. And all of a sudden you need to get your ass to shore, right? You need to take care of yourself, and that part of your nervous system kicks in and you will do what you need to survive. that isn't always, I mean, that burns a lot of fuel and that's a lot of energy to do that. So we've evolved to become more sophisticated than that. Now we're more optimal when we are more relaxed. And you can feel it too. It feels better to be relaxed than slightly on edge. So the sympathetic nervous system state, you can think of that as being on edge. It's like, I'm ready for something to happen. And it's really good if you are playing a sport, if you are doing something that requires a lot of focus. It can serve you to be slightly on edge, right? That doesn't mean that sympathetic nervous system is always bad. However, when we're chronically activated in the sympathetic nervous system, because it's the sympathetic nervous system is like, it's like the red line on the RPM of a car. If you go high and you go to the red line and you shift gears, then you'll go really fast. But if you stay in the red line, you're going to blow out the engine. So this is one of the things that we have that's quite challenging for our health and wellness in today's world, is we're very often stimulated just a little bit into the red line. We are often more sympathetic in our nervous system state, which means we are more tending towards being on edge. And we can look at how fear plays a role. Like, fear is activating that part of our mind that needs, preserve, self-preservation. And then we're not able to access the much bigger, more expanded and useful part of our mind that can be creative and think into the future and feel relaxed enough to make plans and vision for the future and to make decisions and take actions. All of this comes when we are more relaxed. If we're more on edge, then we're more concerned about just taking care of what's now. And oftentimes we can activate into old patterns on how we try to avoid feeling on edge, which is another nuance to this conversation. That being on edge is uncomfortable. We don't really know why or what to do with it. So instead of becoming more conscious and using a tool like the breath, or there's many other tools to regulate the nervous system, that we will unconsciously manifest behavior in order to avoid that experience. So that's a pattern. And that's like, we can say that that's a karma experience as well, that we'll adapt to that state of nervous system. So what's really powerful about becoming more aware and more conscious, more in the present moment, is we realize that we have the ability to influence our nervous system, which is super cool technology. Anybody who figures that out in their lifetime, that's amazing, because a lot of people go a whole lifetime without realizing they can regulate their they can consciously choose to experience this moment differently than it currently is, and affect, change the breath or change where the mind is focusing on in order to create a different state in the body. That's one of the most sophisticated, coolest things that we can do as human beings. And right, to realize that we can create the shift rather than being, a puppet on strings to the nervous system. So the nervous system is just like this. We can be really neutral. We can be more sympathetic, which means I'm more activated, I'm more on edge, and it could be very on edge, or it could be just slightly on edge. Like the email comes in and I'm like, oh shit, I'm getting an email, and it might be that email I don't want to see. Like that kind of on edge. That's something that we can really relate to, is just like walking on eggshells versus being relaxed. And this is right into the conversation about decision making. It's when like you were talking about, Rūta, when we make that decision that just melts, I love this word, melts, that's an example of parasympathetic nervous system. I've got it, it's done. I'm at ease with the experience. And then I therefore am able to access deeper abilities within my mental framework to create that, to bring that in. So that's the value and the beauty of getting ourselves aware of nervous system, the experience of it. And we can say it's the spectrum of stressed or ease, and recognize that, if I'm more at ease, if I'm more relaxed, then have better cognitive function. I'm able to think more clearly. I'm able to make decisions more clearly. And also that authenticity is there too. It's more accessible. There's more space. We can say it's space. So this is the nervous system. And with regards to making the decisions, and there's a couple of things I wanted to invite into this conversation. We're dancing with the unknown. However, when we make a decision, it's from the level of the heart, it's like shaking hands with the unknown, or starting a dance, and you've decided that you're going to dance. So even though there's unknowingness to it, and the unknown has the ability to wake up those old things that we haven't experienced in a very long time, and that can hijack our nervous system because we forget that we're doing okay. It's all of that is part of the wonderful evolutionary process for us in this life to grow and to become more conscious. So that's, I would say, I want that. I need that. I've decided that, great. I've decided that that's the path I'm choosing to get out of to make decisions that are aligned with me, that also take me out of my comfort zone, because I've decided even before that I want to grow and that I want to expand in this lifetime. So part of that decision is the willingness to go on a bumpy ride sometimes. It's not always bumpy, but I want to grow. I want to experience life more deeply, more richly. So I've shaken hands with the unknown to say, all right, let's see what we have for me in this life. And in the process of doing that, what I recognize is then I make big decisions that require a lot of other smaller decisions. And maybe those smaller decisions are more uncomfortable, or maybe those are the decisions that are starting to interrupt the old programs. And here's a couple of things. It's the same. It's a very similar thing said in two different statements that are supporting this creating ease. The first one is from one of my great inspirations, Rich Roll. He has a podcast that I really love. And I've had the pleasure of meeting Rich, and he's an amazing person. And he has said many times that mood follows action. Mood follows action. And this goes right into the conversation that we're taking, is that if I know myself and I act as if, then I might trigger some of those old programs, but at least I know I'm going to influence my mood through acting. And it's like this. I want to lose weight, or I want to get fit, or I want to build my business, whatever it is. We know that those are decisions that require a set of actions and repetition over time. And so there's the part of us that's afraid of achieving that. It could be afraid. Like there's the part of me that may not feel worthy of doing that thing or enough to do that thing. And so I'm intentionally triggering that, because I need to be able to rewrite that program. And mood follows action is saying that when I act, I shift into the state of being that person, and it's no longer a mental thing. It's like it's involving my whole body. I'm acting as if it's already done. And my mood then follows that. My mood then, and my idea about myself then follows that. So it's this idea that I need to wait till I feel like it's the right time in order to do that thing, to take action. And I don't know if you've ever done that. I've done that plenty of times in my life, but that's agonizing. It's so unpleasant to wait until you feel like you're ready in order to take, it's a waste of time. So essentially, what if I act before I feel like I'm ready and deal with this little bit of discomfort, and then I get all of this momentum and all of these associated emotions of, that's right, this is who I am, this is what I'm about, because I've through action aligned with my higher self, my higher purpose. So that I find is very practical and very useful to remember if I feel doubt about my action, or if I feel wavering in my decision. The next thing is, and it's very similar to that statement, is that the antidote to overwhelm is action. So the antidote to feeling overwhelmed is like, oh my God, I've got so many things to do, or all of a sudden my vision has become so big and it's suffocating me. And what do I do with it? The antidote to that feeling, which is in the nervous system, is to put the busy mind aside and just take action. What is the action I can take? And then eventually the mood catches back up and I feel better about myself and I feel more secure in what I'm doing. So those are some of the more other aspects of this conversation. And I'm still curious about like, how do I manufacture or create that melting? I've had it sometimes where it's like, yes, I've decided, it's done, no worries, and I feel really relaxed into it. And then other times decision making there's an edginess to it, and I'm willing to accept the edginess because I know it's where I want to go as well. So, this is my edge of exploration of my human experience that I'm very happy to share with you.
Awesome. Thank you so much. I mean, there's so much that you just said. So I also have a lot to respond to everything that you said. So first, I think that throughout the conversation so far, we have actually already answered your question. How do we manufacture the melting feeling, the feeling that I am convinced it's already done. I can relax into it. I feel the relief that it's already done. It's like, it feels like such a massive relief, as if some massive weight was lifted off my shoulders. And that is through just simply making a decision that is authentic to you and then taking deliberate action. So it's the decision and then the action, you as you were just talking about it. So when you make a decision, when you make a deliberate decision, when you get on board fully, and then even though you, like you just said, even though you might feel some overwhelm, even though you're not quite sure what exactly to do, if you take action anyhow, that is exactly how you manufacture that conviction. That is exactly manufacture that melting feeling, that relief, because you're not just sitting around in stress and wondering what the hell am I doing. No, you have made a decision, and even though it's uncomfortable, even though it's unfamiliar, even though it's scary, even though it's, something is getting in the way, even though you feel insecure or you're full of doubt, you still do it. Because the most successful people on this planet, what did they do? They overcame their fears. It doesn't mean that they're fearless. They had the fears, they had the doubts, but they did it anyway. And that's exactly how you manufacture that conviction, actually. So like you said, it's like a loop. You prioritize feeling good and elevating your vibration. And with that, you take action. And because you take action, you feel even better about yourself, and you are even, you believe it even more. You are even more confident in yourself, and you take more action. And basically it's like a loop, and that loop goes upward. You feel better and better and better, and you take more and more action that actually moves the needle. So again, so it's this, that's where the relief comes in, and that's how you manufacture it from my perspective anyway. And I think this is exactly how you described the entire process. And what I really also wanted to point out is, like you said, there's really no right moment. There is no such thing as there's the right moment. And at the same time, like, for example, if somebody is like, oh, well, I don't want to have kids now, I'm waiting for the right moment. Well, that's fair enough. Like, I personally don't think that I want to have kids just now, but who knows, maybe one day and maybe never, I don't know. But the thing is that if there is a dream that you have and you're like, oh, I'm waiting for the right moment to quit my job to pursue something that's been on my mind for a long time, well, that is an invitation to jump. That is an invitation to face the fear and be like, you know what, it's been too long and I've been just waiting for the right moment that doesn't really exist. What are you waiting for, really? Is just you're getting in your own way. So really, it's about finding the courage to do it anyway, finding the courage to do things despite obstacles, despite those bumps on the road. And like you said also, so often people forget that they're doing actually all right. And that reminds me of the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, so often people say that they're, you know, they're not ready, they don't have the financial means, they don't feel safe, you know, leaving that relationship, blah, 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 which I get it. For your mind, it might be like a real threat. But really, if you really, really honestly, objectively investigate, do I actually have everything that I need? And do I know that I'm capable to make it work, even though there might be some obstacles? So if you look at the hierarchy of needs, the pyramid, do you know that the shelter and the food and like everything, the basic needs are going to be covered? For example, do you know that you have amazing support system in your life, family, friends, community who are going to be there for you, even though maybe you will fail in the first year of your business, for example, and maybe you will still struggle financially and you will need to sleep on someone's couch? Do you have people like that in your life who are going to be able to support you? And for example, for me personally, I always keep on reminding myself that I am the one creating my reality, and therefore I am safe because I am the one who is responsible and I'm the one who is making it happen. And honestly, it absolutely never happened that I needed to go out there and ask for help, even though I could have, even though there are people in my life. Just the fact that I had that safety net in my mind, like, okay, I am safe because I have amazing people in my life. I have people I can ask for support, but I never needed to because I felt safe within my own body and I took responsibility to move forward. And that's exactly what I also always keep on reminding my own clients, to remember that they are capable and they are all right and there's nothing to worry about. And really, so often we spend so much energy and focus on things that actually are just an illusion. And if we just bypass that illusion of like, oh, what if, all of these scenarios that are actually just a falsified potentials out of infinite potentials out there, why not just focus your attention to something that, of course, I am taking that action, I am creating that reality, I am moving forward. And that is exactly what you said about shaking hands with the unknown. It's like, yeah, well, I don't know how exactly it's going to unfold, but I'm doing it anyway. And I'm excited about it. And I feel alive and I feel so inspired and so ignited by that idea, how freaking amazing life is, that I don't know everything. And that is what's really making the world or life worth living, the unknown. Because how boring would it be if you knew every single thing that's going to unfold in the future? The unknown is what makes you feel excited. I mean, so many people, why do they go on vacations and then they, you know, jump with bungee jumping, and they do paragliding, and they do all sorts of like adrenaline boost type of things? It's because of the unknown, because they want the thrill. So the unknown in, you know, either I don't know, quitting your job or starting a business or walking away from a toxic relationship, that is what makes your life worth living, and that is what makes your life exciting. So anyway, coming back full loop also, okay, so how do you really get on board with your nervous system? How do you feel convinced? How do you make that decision where you're like, okay, now I can feel the relief, now I can relax into it, now I can take inspired action and move forward? You mentioned a few things, and I just want to kind of wrap everything up, and maybe you will add some more. But it's really about slowing down, because we are so much in a rush. And that's why we build all of this tension and stress in the body. And it's like, oh, I'm doing all these things, and that's why we get overwhelmed. So slow down, breathe, meditate, spend time in nature, interrupt the spiral, do something different for a moment, maybe even do cold therapy, whatever makes your system kind of reboot in a sense, so that you can actually again focus on what's going on in the present moment, which kind of basically means that you're shaking the reality as it is or as you perceive it to be. You shake your current perception and the identity which you are kind of attached to in the moment, and through that you're okay, so is this actually real? Okay, I just took a cold shower, or I just jumped in the ocean, or I just I don't know, slowed down and was doing some breathing exercises for a moment, and now I realize that I was on an autopilot, and I was in fact living a narrative, a story that's not quite aligned with where I want to go. So I will rather shift my focus and do things differently, so that then I'm coming back to conviction, I'm coming back to feeling relaxed about it, I'm coming back to the knowingness that is already done.
Beautiful.
Awesome.
Let's
Do you
leave
have
it. No, I love it. It's that life is a process. Life is a iterate. Like we are here to practice and explore, and again dance with the unknown. That will be. I love your reflection. Is a really good remembering of this process of think clearly or come from authenticity, act and reinforce that and spiral upward and create that momentum. And if there's anything I know, that life is gets so rich and so meaningful when we live it in that way, instead of in pattern of what we did or what our parents did or what we think we were supposed to do. I find that that kind of life would not satisfy me, my appetite for experiencing meaning and purpose. So this is really the conversation, making big, I'd say bold decisions, and being the process that brings that into fruition again and again and again. And I also believe there's an aspect that when we do that enough, we're conditioning trust into ourselves. We can condition that deep knowing into ourselves by making a decision and following through. I trust myself to make a decision and follow through. And then that's another dimension of this. And so this path that we get to walk, and the responsibility that we get to take for engaging in life fully is there for the taking, and it is the recipe for a really beautiful, meaningful life.
Awesome. Beautiful. I think this is a perfect moment to wrap it up. I thank you so much for your energy and presence yet again, and all these conversations. I love these conversations.
Me
really.
too.
Thank you so much. It's such a beautiful flow, and we just add to each other's thoughts and ideas, and it's just like, and I really do hope that for the listeners and whoever is watching these YouTube videos, I hope that's helpful. If you have any questions to us, feel free to reach out, send an email, or send DMs on whichever platform. I personally am mainly on LinkedIn, but also on Instagram and Facebook. How can people reach you, Jeff?
You can get in touch with me through email or Instagram. My name on Instagram is Jefe. Sorry, I started spelling it twice. Jefe only _AF. And I'm sure when you share this, you can share it in the description box, and I'll do the same for you too.
Yes, exactly. I always do that. So it's in the description below. And other than that, I mean, yeah, you can jump on redefiningsuccess.co.uk. That's my website, which I'm, by the way, going to redo completely. But anyway, because my last name is just such a confusion for so many people, and I'm like, whatever, it doesn't matter what's my last name and how to find me. So it's just redefiningsuccess.co.uk.
It's a good one. Redefine success.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Jeff. And see you in the next one.
Yeah, I mean, we never even realized this, but we're like 100, maybe not even 100 meters from each other in the same town. High
For
five.
now, for now.
For now. Yeah. Awesome. All right. Well, here we are. I'm going to end it. And thank you for watching.
Thank you.